The Orrathi transit signature was exactly what the Bureau of Deep Watch had predicted. A chevron bloom, 38 vessels, materializing at the L2 point at 0312 station time. I was at my post when it happened. I am always at my post at 0312. My father was, and his mother before him, and so on back through a line of warrant officers so long that the records department gave up trying to index them all and simply created a category called Varick Continuity Staff, with a note that the position had never once gone unmanned. We had been waiting for this morning for 39,814 years. The alert did not sound. There was no alarm. Protocol forbade it. What happened instead was that the long-frequency monitor on my secondary console emitted a single soft tone, the one it makes when a signal is received on the Orrathi administrative carrier band, and my board lit green down its entire left side. I sat forward, rolled my chair 2 centimeters to face the secondary console directly, and said, quietly, to no one in particular, "There they are." Across the station, doors opened. My supervisor, Director Henry Voss, walked in pulling her uniform jacket straight. The Night Watch communications team took their seats without being told. Nobody spoke loudly. Nobody ran. We had rehearsed this more times than I could count, and rehearsal, after enough generations, stops feeling like rehearsal and starts feeling like memory. The Orrathi did not hail us immediately. Their records, we had reconstructed their administrative language well enough to understand this, listed Earth as Catalogue Entry 7 Orrath Null, a sterilization event, confirmed extinct, file closed. 40,000 years ago, their survey ships had seeded the upper atmosphere with a compound their xenobiologists had designated a civilizational terminator. They had waited the prescribed 18 months, conducted a long-range population scan, recorded 0 biosignature density above the designated threshold, and departed. The file was closed. The planet was a dead entry. What their instruments had missed, and what our historians had spent 4 centuries reconstructing from fragmented atmospheric chemistry records, was that 12% of the human population had survived underground. Not in bunkers hastily dug in the last weeks. In the deep agricultural warrens that the northern and southern agricultural collectives had been building for 60 years prior, against the possibility of exactly this kind of event. Not because anyone had known the Orrathi were coming specifically. Because the people who built those warrens had lived long enough to understand that the galaxy was not, on balance, friendly, and that being underground with seeds and water and power was better than being above ground without them. 12%. Roughly 900 million people, at the population figures of the time. They came up after 4 years. The compound had a half-life, and they had waited out the full decay window before opening the upper hatches. The first things they did, in the written record, were catalogue the dead, secure the agricultural supply chains, re-establish communication between surviving settlements, and draft a formal reply to the Orrathi Survey-Reclamation Directorate. The reply was logged on the Orrathi administrative carrier frequency at 0047 on the 14th day after emergence. It cited the Directorate's own file number. It acknowledged the sterilization event, listed the survival count, and stated, in the closing paragraph, a single sentence that every child in Earth's school system still memorized before the age of 10. "We will still be here when you return. This transmission will be waiting." They had transmitted that reply, and a new copy of it, every 37 days for 39,800 years. The Varick Memorial Ground Station had been built on this site, the first confirmed Orrathi survey landing coordinate, in the northern Eurasian steppe, for the express purpose of maintaining the transmission schedule without interruption. The station had been rebuilt 4 times as technology advanced. The transmitter array had been upgraded 11 times. The carrier frequency had been maintained with continuous calibration against the original signal fragment our astronomers had extracted from 40,000-year-old ionospheric trace records. Not one transmission had been missed. This is what I do, in practical terms. I maintain the log. I verify the transmission schedule. I ensure continuity. My title is Warrant Officer, Archival and Signals Division, Varick Memorial Ground Station, but what I am, more precisely, is the latest in a very long line of people who made sure the lights stayed on and the message kept going out. The Orrathi took 11 minutes to begin their reclamation protocol scans. I watched the telemetry feed from our orbital sensor net as their instruments swept the planet. They would be looking for residual biosignature density, for recoverable mineral and atmospheric resources, for anything of value in a dead system. Standard procedure, our analysts had concluded, for a closed-file reclamation sweep. I gave them 14 minutes. Then I opened the response channel and transmitted Earth's formal greeting. It was written in reconstructed Orrathi administrative script. We had been working on that reconstruction for 900 years, using the original signal fragment, subsequent intercepts from Orrathi traffic in adjacent systems, and a great deal of comparative linguistic archaeology. Our current confidence rating was 91%. The greeting cited file number 7 Orrathi null, acknowledged the Survey-Reclamation Directorate by its full administrative title, noted that the file status designation of confirmed extinct was in error, and requested that the Directorate update its records accordingly. The last line read, "This transmission has been queued for 39,814 years. We appreciate your attention." For a long time, nothing came back. Director Voss was standing at my shoulder by then. Neither of us spoke. The room was very quiet, the particular quiet of people who are breathing carefully and watching a board that has not changed in several seconds. Then the long-frequency monitor sounded again. The Orrathi response was in their administrative script, which was confirmation enough that our 91% confidence rating was close to accurate. Our translation system parsed it in 40 seconds. Director Voss read the output over my shoulder and let out a single, slow breath. They had asked for a population verification scan. I authorized it immediately. The orbital SensorNet was already configured for exactly this contingency. The verification package went out in under 2 minutes. It included current population figures, settlement density maps, industrial output metrics, and the publicly available technical specifications for the Earth Defense Compact's orbital and surface infrastructure. The compact fleet, 340 hulls, ranging from fast response frigates to platform carriers, was already in formation. It had been moving into visible geosynchronous array since the moment the Orrathi transit signature registered. Not aggressively. Quietly, in good order, with running lights on, the way you arrange a reception rather than a firing solution. The Orrathi went silent for much longer this time. 41 minutes. I counted. When the response came, it was shorter than the first. Our system parsed it in 11 seconds. Director Voss read it, set her coffee down on the edge of my console, and looked at the far wall for a moment. The Directorate was requesting to speak with our designated authority. I keyed the channel and said, in spoken Orrathi, which I have spent 22 years learning, and which I speak, at this point, better than most of my colleagues, that Director Henry Voss, Senior Archivist and Station Commander of the Varick Memorial Ground Station, would be honored to receive them. Voss shot me a look that was half gratitude and half the expression of a person who has just been volunteered for something very large. I gave her the mildest possible shrug. She straightened her jacket again and sat down at the primary communication station. What followed was 3 hours and 40 minutes of the most carefully conducted diplomatic exchange I have ever witnessed. I ran the translation relay, managing the gap between our 91% reconstruction and whatever the Directorate's officers were actually saying, flagging uncertainties, cross-referencing against the archive in real time. Voss handled the content. She is better at this than she gives herself credit for. The Orrathi wanted to know how we had survived. We told them, the Warrens, the 12%, the 4-year wait, the emergence records. They wanted to know how we had reconstructed their language and their file system. We told them, 900 years of comparative linguistics, a single ionospheric signal fragment, and a great deal of patience. They wanted to know about the Defense Compact Fleet. We told them, it had been under continuous construction for the last 12,000 years, funded by a treaty organization that now included 47 member civilizations, all of whom had been watching this morning's events on a live feed. There was a long silence after that last point. Then one of the Directorate officers, we believe it was the Senior Survey Commander, based on the formal register of the script, transmitted a question that our system flagged as unusual. Not procedural. Not administrative. Something outside the script they had clearly been working from. The question was, what is the document you have been transmitting for 39,000 years? I took the channel back from Voss. I told them it was a reply. I told them it had been transmitted on their carrier frequency every 37 days since the 14th day after emergence from the underground Warrens, 40,000 years ago. I told them we had a complete log of every transmission, date stamped, sequentially numbered, addressee listed as the Survey-Reclamation Directorate, File 7 Orrathi null. Then I transmitted the archive. The full archive is approximately 19 terabytes of compressed signal data. It takes about 4 minutes to push through the long-frequency array at standard bandwidth. I watched the transfer complete and then settled back in my chair and waited. The Orrathi were silent for 2 hours and 9 minutes. When they came back, the register had shifted. Not procedural anymore. Something slower. Our system parsed it carefully, and Voss and I read the output together. They were not requesting reclamation rights. They were requesting, formally and in the administrative language of the Survey-Reclamation Directorate, to be received as a diplomatic contact. They cited, as the basis for the request, the archive, specifically the unbroken transmission record, which they described, in a phrase our system rendered as best it could, as something close to an active witness that predates our current administrative charter. The Directorate's administrative charter, our historians had established, was 31,000 years old. Voss authorized the reception and referred them to the Earth Diplomatic Compact for formal credential exchange. I logged the outcome, updated the file, and transmitted a brief status report to the 47 member civilizations that were still watching. By then it was nearly 0900. I had been on shift for nearly 6 hours and had not noticed. I stayed at my console for a while after the room began to quiet down. There was paperwork, technically. There is always paperwork, but I did not start it yet. Instead, I pulled up the archive on my personal terminal and navigated to the first entry. 14th day after emergence. 0047 hours. 40,000 years, 3 months, and 11 days ago. The original transmission is 17 lines. Most of it is administrative. The file citation, the survival count, the emergence date, the settlement coordinates. The kind of thing that the people who wrote it understood would be necessary, because they were practical people who had just spent 4 years underground and had come up into a dead world and immediately begun the work of making it livable again. The last line is not administrative. I have read it several thousand times over the course of my career. I have read it to my children, who have read it to theirs. Every warrant officer in the Varick continuity staff has read it on their first day and on every anniversary of their posting. It is the line that gets quoted at state functions and carved above archival doors and whispered, sometimes, in the early morning before a long shift, as a kind of orientation. We will still be here when you return. This transmission will be waiting. They wrote that in the dark, with 900 million survivors and a ruined world above them and no certainty of anything except that the work had to continue. They were right. We were.